Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and having a great weekend out there so far. Got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today, which is going to be very active day, especially across portions of the south central U.S. where we have a huge damaging wind threat and also an increased tornado threat now for a pretty small area. But this small area could get impacted by a strong tornado, which is an EF2 or higher. There's a lot to talk about, guys. As you can tell, there's about 1 million tabs pulled up. This might be the most tabs I've ever had pulled up in a video. There's a lot to discuss, so I want to let you guys know right off the dot. This is going to be one of my longest videos ever. I feel like the morning videos have been getting out there a little bit better, so it's not to say I'm not going to get detailed in the evening videos anymore or stop doing them. But, I want to spend a little bit more time on these morning videos also because, listen, I'm really thinking that this week will be the most active weather week in some time. I'm not talking about in the last 5 or 10 years or anything like that, but there is just multiple storm systems to talk about. There's going to be some very long videos throughout this week, and there's just a lot to talk about. We're going to try to hit on everything from the severe weather event today, the upper Midwest winter storm over the next 24 to 48 hours, the winter event across the Northeast that could deliver areas like New York City their most substantial snowfall of the year. And then there's a system behind it that's going to promote probably a 2 to 3 day severe weather event late this week, Thursday into Friday. And then with that same system, there's going to be a winter storm somewhere, but we got to figure out where. There is so much to talk about. So if you guys have not subscribed, it means the world when y'all do. I really appreciate it. And like the video. Videos like this that you like, it really helps to get these longer videos out there and reach more people. So definitely consider hitting that like button. If you do like the video, it really goes a long way. And more importantly if you guys got anything that I can pray about, pray over, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to pray over it also. If you guys got any questions and comments, anything like that, put it in there and I'll try to get to it a little bit later this afternoon before the severe weather event really gets going. But then I, got to go to church this morning, and I just got other things to certainly tend to. But I will get to your comments, so put them in there. So let's get rolling because we got a lot to talk about. Timestamps will be up in this video about 5 or 10 minutes after it drops, so bear with me. If you guys, a lot of people will say, I don't have any sound in your video the first 5 or 10 minutes of the video. I don't know, it's a YouTube thing, but sometimes with videos, there's no sound for like the first 5 or 10 minutes. And I don't know if it's something with YouTube, something on, the viewer's end, but whatever it is, just give it a second and it will work. I promise you it 100% of the time. Let's check out what's going on here. You see this spin right here? This is our first system that's going to plague the country over the next several days. This is going to create a severe weather event for this portion of the country right into here. So eventually trail off and go this way and kind of eject across the plains into the upper Midwest, create a winter storm up here again for northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. Could be another ice storm, but further north. Snow will be further north also, not as far south. It's going to be all rain for Chicago. A lot of winds in this portion of the country. Sorry, I'm not circling things here. Just I did not restart my computer. Not going to lie, if I don't restart my computer, my little pen over here does not work. So sorry for not being prepared there. But and then this system, a secondary low pressure is going to form right here, and you're basically going to have not a major winter storm, but you could have widespread anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of snow, depending on where you are. New York City is going to get into the winter weather fund for you winter weather fans. Long Island too, northern New Jersey. So it's not a significant event like a nor'easter where you get feet of snow, but several inches of snow, plowable snow, is likely. So you keep this rolling. We're obviously going to focus more on the near term and then work on more of the long term. You see all these tan colors right here, brownish shaded colors. That is wind advisory. So with a negatively tilted trough that's going to eject across this portion of the country and move like this, everything south, southeast of this low pressure, strong winds is going to be a big story. Widespread 30 to as much as 45 mile per hour winds, even outside the area is getting hit by storms. But high wind warnings up in this more mustard color right here, where sometime later this afternoon, when this low pressure ejects out of the southwest and scoots over like this, there is going to be a period of extremely intense winds in the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. I'm talking about 60, 70, maybe much as 80 mile per hour winds. And then a line of storms is going to erupt across the eastern panhandle of Texas and then move into western Oklahoma and just absolutely slam the state of Oklahoma and then surrounding sections of each state. But you see up here, we're going to talk about this too. For my folks up here in the upper Midwest, there's winter storm watches up for northern Wisconsin, winter storm warnings up where they're just more confident. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an ice storm. One of these watches or advisories is upgraded to an ice storm warning because there's going to be a quarter inch ice plus ice totals up here. And then you got winter storm watches up for the interior areas of the Northeast where they're more confident that you're going to have accumulating snow. But expect as we get into this afternoon, these watches, even advisories, warnings to become more widespread into the Northeast. So, there is a lot going on. Storm Prediction Center, this is for today. As you can tell, not a lot's changed as far as the colors you see on your map. Moderate risk here in the red, enhance in the orange, slight, that's in the yellow, and then the dark green's the marginal. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Level 5 is the highest it goes. It's a high risk. So what's driving this? It's really a damaging wind threat, but tornado risk has increased since that very small video I made last night. There is a very small window in far southwest Oklahoma and then sections of northern Texas that has a 10% risk to see not only a tornado within 25 miles on any given point in this yellow area, but a significant tornado that is EF2 or higher. So you're asking, why is it so small? And, just why is it significant? Well, there's a moist sector that's building this morning across Texas that will surge northward. And before this cold front collapses over Oklahoma, you're going to have a surge of moisture right up. It basically is as far as the north of it. If it moves further north, then the tornado threat will shift further north. But they're thinking that this brief surge of moisture will have dew points in the 60s. And right before the cold front moves, the surge of dew points in the 60s move up, and then the cold front pushes everything and dries everything out. So they're thinking that is where the highest tornado threat will be, and it'll probably just be a 1 to 3 hour window. 3 hours is pushing it. The biggest threat with this is damaging winds. Okay, as soon as these storms erupt, you have a incredibly strong low-level jet pushing 80, 85 knots, and maybe 90 knots. That is incredible, only 5,000 feet up in the air. You are going to see the sky absolutely ripping above you in these areas of the country. And first off, I want to mention the pink area, that has a 45% chance to see damaging winds pushing 50 knots or higher. That's 55, 60 miles per hour. Then the red area, 30% chance. If you're in this red area, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and surrounding sections, that is a 30% chance for the same criteria. And then you're wondering, what is the black outlined area? We call that a hatched area with the black dashes going in between it. That is a 10% risk to see significant wind damage. I'm sorry, let me explain this right. Significant winds pushing 65 knots or greater. So that's pushing hurricane force winds, which is 74 miles per hour or higher. So you're going to have a chance with some of these storms. In fact, it's going to happen for somebody. Somebody's going to get an 85, maybe 90 mile per hour wind gust somewhere in these storms. So this isn't 10% added to the 45% risk, making it 55%. This is a 45% risk. It's kind of confusing to explain. 45% risk to see damaging winds pushing 50 knots or higher, 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then you also have a 10% risk to see significant winds pushing 65 knots or higher, which is 70, 75 miles per hour or more. Okay, so that stretches all the way up into southwest Missouri. So there's a huge corridor right here. Okay, so a lot going on. There will be a hail threat. We will have reports of hail, especially if any supercells get going, but that's not the biggest threat today. So we're going to jump right into this, guys. We're going to start this off. This is around 2 p.m. Central Time out here. Not a whole lot, going a little scattered and smothered showers in northeast Texas, areas of Oklahoma, Arkansas. The moist the moisture field is building. Dew points in the 50s and 60s is building into Oklahoma at this point. It will build all the way until it doesn't, which means it'll build all the way up until the cold front crashes in behind this, under this low pressure, and dries out the atmosphere and absolutely kills the severe weather threat. But here we go. Storms explode around somewhat of a dry line right here in areas of far southwest Kansas, panhandle of Oklahoma, and Texas. There's going to be a brief window. And like I said, this window is going to be right in here. The Storm Prediction Center is saying these up here are going to be lacking what we call thermodynamics. They're going to be lacking the moisture these storms really need to feed off of, probably lacking a little bit of CAPE. The kinematics will be absolutely maxed out, meaning the wind energy needed for these severe weather events to spin in the atmosphere, but you're lacking other things too, which is the thermodynamics. You continue to go right here. Right around 5, 6, 7, 8 p.m., there's going to be a time frame right into here in the southwest Oklahoma where you could get a strong tornado very briefly. Okay, especially on the southern tail end of these storms where something can take advantage of the better thermodynamics down here, the better moisture field that you have probably down here in North Texas. But quickly, these will develop into a dangerous line of storms. And there could be another spin up in this also. You can't just totally kill the tornado threat once these evolves into a linear threat. But I can tell you, as we're getting to 8, 9 p.m., this becomes more of a widespread damaging wind threat. We'll start knocking on the door of Oklahoma City, for example, probably around 10, 11 p.m., give or take an hour. This begins to blast through Oklahoma City, even sections of southern and southeast Kansas. Hits Tulsa probably around midnight, give or take an hour as always. These continue. There will be a thin line of storms that will move through Dallas probably in the middle of the night tonight, but there could be some strong winds. There will be some strong winds with it, but nothing compared to your neighbor up north in Oklahoma. And then these begin to move into southwest Missouri in the wee hours of the morning, areas of Arkansas. They will lose some steam a little bit, but there will still be damaging winds with them, okay, as this continues to blast. We'll get more of a broader look for you folks in Missouri and places like that. But look at the winds. One thing I want to mention here is even if there's no storms that develop, and in fact, I don't think there really will be any storms that develop in the western areas of Texas, western panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. That's why there's red flag warnings, because the winds are going to pick up regardless of storm development. And just if there's even a sign of a spark out there, you could cause a fire. Dry conditions out here and very, very windy conditions. But we'll stop this here. This is around 5, 6 p.m. You got tropical storm force winds, even hurricane force winds, blasting into the panhandle of Texas, panhandle of Oklahoma. These begin to move through. Amarillo, you'll have a period of wind sometime later this afternoon into this evening, pushing 60, 70, maybe 80 mile per hour wind gust. And then the storms will form, and then this will become the more dominant feature of strong winds. And I mean, look at these winds associated. These are the storms. These are just the winds behind this. Okay, as the dry air moves through, this is when the fire issue really becomes a danger with dew points dropping well into the teens and single digits in the panhandle of Texas. But the winds continue. Throughout the evening hours, you're going to be dealing with some very strong winds in the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma, I'm telling you. But these are the winds associated with the line of storms blasting through Oklahoma City through 10, 11 p.m., I'm talking about 60, 70, maybe as 80 mile per hour winds are possible. And then these continue, guys. I mean, it doesn't let up necessarily. It somewhat does. But this is 1 a.m. These winds, these strong winds associated with this intact line of storms moving into areas of southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri after midnight. And these continue. And they'll continue to blast through areas of Missouri and then the Ohio Valley areas in the Midwest. But pretty crazy stuff, guys. And really, I want to briefly explain this isolated tornado threat. What happens here is, you'll start us off around midday today. This is around lunchtime. I mean, you're still got dew points in the 40s and 50s in Oklahoma. I mean, so you're thinking, it doesn't feel like severe weather. Quickly, a more moist atmosphere rises. Definitely in the North Texas. Look at dew points rising in like the Dallas-Fort Worth area well into deep into the 60s, closing in on 70. But really quickly, you see these more colder looking colors. These are dew points. This is dry air, dew points in the 20s, 30s. But quickly, right around that 6 to 8 p.m., dew points in this section right here will rise into the low 60s. That's just supportive enough for some moisture for some of these storms to really take advantage of. The tailwind of that line is something you got to watch. And then there's a moist atmosphere for this line of storms to really fuel off of. But really the crazy thing about this, what's fueling such an incredible damaging wind threat is this low-level jet that's going to be blasting through this area. And we'll have to go down to 6Z. And this is it. I mean, look at this wind field. This is about 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet above our heads out here in Oklahoma. If you see this wider colors, guys, that is over a 70 to 80 knot low-level jet. That pink you see right here, I mean, you're pushing 80 knot low-level jet. Normally we see this in the mid-levels. So these winds are obviously mixing to the surface. So this is giving rocket fuel for that damaging wind threat. And this continues. I mean, it even amplifies right over Oklahoma City. I mean, you see this pink area? I mean, that's 85, 90 knot low-level jets blasting over Oklahoma City and Tulsa. So, man, it's a big deal today, guys. It really is, and I can't reiterate that enough. We call this a wind bag in the weather community, where it is just a damaging wind threat. This is the kind of things that can blow out your windshields if you get in the nastiest part of these storms. And this will move through overnight tonight into Oklahoma. Yeah, it's going to be a big time wind threat today. So more broader look at this. We continue to move these storms further east. I mean, you could be dealing with some very strong winds as far north as Kansas City. These storms will continue to somewhat remain intact all the way to the wee hours of the morning throughout central, southern portions of Missouri, northern portions of Arkansas, and they will be producing damaging winds. But of course, it'll loosen up in intensity somewhat as you're waking up tomorrow morning. But it's a big deal out here in Oklahoma. I know you guys are used to the crazy severe weather, but this is going to be just an intense line of storms. So we continue to look at the winds going forward here. This is kind of what's left over of that line, that trailing off low pressure to the north. You got 50, 60 mile per hour winds, gust, not sustained, but gust blasting through areas of northern Arkansas and then Missouri. And then as you're waking up tomorrow morning, 6, 7 a.m., strong winds basically for the entire state of Illinois, especially the southern half, moving through the Quad States regions of southeast Arkansas, western Kentucky, Tennessee. And it'll be a very windy day across the Mid-South, Ohio Valley, tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, even for the deep south. I mean, very strong winds in Tennessee. These are scattered 30 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts in these areas. You know, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, very strong winds. This eventually will make their way into Ohio a little bit later in the afternoon. Very strong winds in the southern Appalachian Mountains, especially those higher peaks. And this is all response to another negatively tilted trough. Okay, so pretty wild stuff. Excuse me. For my folks up in the north central U.S., upper Midwest, I'm going to talk about you here in a second. I want to briefly go over the weather here in the southeast today, which there isn't really much to talk about. But today, you'll warm back up. For those areas that were kind of entrenched in that cold air damming setup yesterday, where it didn't get out the 50s, of course, it was colder than forecast, which it always is in these cold air damming setups. You will rebound all the way into the 70s today, thankfully. But a pretty quiet day. You'll be dealing with some shower activity in Arkansas. There will be some clouds around with just a moist field kind of building into the area. And then we just talked about these showers, but it'll get very windy in Arkansas and these sections that I just mentioned a little bit later tonight. But southeast, pretty quiet. Northeast, you guys got a little bit of surprise yesterday. Had a viewer mention that in Delaware, they did get a nice burst of snow. Let me know what you got. And, areas in the interior Northeast got incredible snowfall ratios yesterday, where I saw somebody I believe that lives in southern sections of Vermont or New Hampshire. They only got 3/100ths of an inch of precipitation, but I think that accumulated to about 2 or 3 inches of snow. So that is incredible snowfall ratios that you got from some of that snow yesterday. Very powdery snow. Again, later today, I mean, you're going to have a little bit of snow, maybe moderate at times, working its way through the interior Northeast. And these could be little bursts of heavy snow in upstate New York State. Colder air is going to create all snow. This is just a little piece of energy from the northern stream. And as we get into Sunday afternoon, this afternoon, it could be a wintry day again for the interior Northeast. Some of these snow showers will make it down to probably Boston a little bit later this afternoon, this evening. But this is nothing compared to what's knocking on your doorstep here in the next day or so. So let's talk about the upper Midwest. Today, right now, you have winter weather advisories just north of the city of Minneapolis, winter storm warnings just to your east into Wisconsin, and then winter storm watches in this more teal color right here. These will get extended north, and this will change throughout the day. But there will be a winter storm up here, and there could be some nasty ice totals up here. Let's talk about it. HRRR model, we'll talk about the kind of the beginning stages of this storm. This is that very strong low pressure surging across the plains. This will bring a huge push of moisture into Iowa. All rain in Iowa, very heavy rain too, wind-driven rain as we get into the overnight hours. But look at this corridor of ice setting up right into here into Wisconsin. This starts off as a burst of snow for areas of central Wisconsin, but this is all ice. Pretty far north into Minnesota as we're waking up tomorrow morning. This is some pretty heavy snow. I mean, the HRRR model wants to show ice as far south as southern sections of Michigan. Not sure if I buy that right now, but the latest HRRR model is coming out. But they're not very confident in a lot of winter weather falling down here, but it is possible initially that it could. But, you know, you could be dealing with a lot of ice into this area. We're getting into about mid to late morning out here in the Midwest, upper Midwest. And, you know, we're getting into about midday Monday. Heavy snow falling from northern areas of Minnesota and then all the way into Michigan. So I'm kind of surprised there's no advisories or winter storm watches actually in Michigan. That's a little bit of a surprise, but I'm sure that'll change throughout the next several hours. But this continues, really cranks up probably tomorrow afternoon, and just more snow on top of snow for you folks up here. And then this lasts all the way through and starts to pull out tomorrow night. And then by the time you're into Tuesday morning, it'll be done. But snowfall between this with this entire system, you got to get up into northern Wisconsin to get accumulating snow. But you could get more snow in central Wisconsin. But, you know, up here in northeast Minnesota, certainly can get 3 to 5, maybe 6 inches of snow. The UP of Michigan is going to get widespread, probably 4 to 6 inch totals. And then northern sections of Michigan accumulating snow also. Not a blockbuster event, but just snow on top of snow. The National Weather Service is very bullish on ice. I mean, they got 3/10 of an inch of ice in some sections here in Wisconsin, and they got over a half an inch of ice forecasted just north of Grand Rapids here in areas of sort of west central Michigan. There is they're really bullish on these ice totals. I'm not saying bullish as if they're wrong, but they really like the idea of this being a lot of ice. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if this decreases somewhat in the next couple outlooks. In fact, let's see if there is. Yeah, it did kind of decrease right here in areas of Wisconsin, but it's still going for the same thing. So basically from eastern areas, east central areas of Minnesota, all the way to west central sections of Michigan, stretching all the way through Wisconsin, there could be some nasty ice, even a solid glazed ice in Green Bay, certainly Madison, Wisconsin, Eau Claire. Definitely some nasty ice in this region. Let's talk about this winter event. Halfway through this, and we're 23 minutes into the video. Let's talk about this event for the Northeast coming up. So here it comes. We'll take a look at the latest 06Z Euro. Snow moving in as early as Monday evening. This could start off with some ice here in areas of northern PA, maybe some ice in State College. All snow for Chicago. I'm going to get me a little sip of water here. And then this is moving through, and we're getting into the overnight hours of Monday night into Tuesday morning. This is right in the middle of the night, Monday night. So tomorrow night. I mean, look at this. You got moderate to heavy snow into New York City, Long Island, even down to central New Jersey. It is snowing at a pretty good clip. It comes in at a pretty favorable time of the day for you winter weather fans, which is the nighttime. But this shows just a wintry mess of everything. Basically from central to eastern Pennsylvania. This is getting very close now. Very close to like Philadelphia. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we're getting into the heels of the storm, you have a winter weather advisory as far south as Philadelphia. All rain for Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, it looks like. But, I mean, this is looking like a plowable snow. Maybe for New York City. Right now, the National Weather Service staying conservative. But I would expect these snowfall totals to increase. But you keep this going, and honestly, this has shifted, and this is around 4 o'clock in the morning for Eastern time as we're getting into Tuesday morning. This has shifted more so to a Long Island, New York City heavy snow event. I'm not talking about a foot of snow, but substantial snow for you guys compared to what we've seen, which is hardly nothing this time of the year. I mean, it's snowing pretty hard down here in New York City and surrounding regions, southern Connecticut. And then we're waking up Tuesday morning, it's still snowing. This remains all snow for northern New Jersey. Remains all frozen precipitation for eastern and northeast Pennsylvania. This, if you're going off what the Euro says, it keeps the heaviest precipitation to the south initially, and then another area of precipitation will kind of amplify up here for the interior northeast. But this is around mid-morning Tuesday, still snowing in a pretty heavy clip in Long Island, as far southern sections of New England. And this is a nice little event for you winter weather fans that have not seen much at all. And then we're getting into Tuesday about midday. Heavier snow. Looks like the heavier snow for you guys moves in during Tuesday for the interior northeast, like Vermont, New Hampshire, and northern sections of New York State. But you could get another push of snow for like Massachusetts points north as we're moving forward here. And then the snow it might switch to rain at the very end for Boston, but as we're getting into Wednesday morning, it's kind of drifting off into Maine, and the rest is history here. Talking about snowfall accumulations, and I'm gonna zone in on a couple areas, so bear with me here. But this is between now and the duration of the event, all the way through. This is honestly just through March 1st. So certain areas in Maine, it could certainly still be snowing. We'll look at the 12Z, see what it shows. Nothing has changed. So this is through March, the morning of March 1st, going for 3 inches in Boston and just a couple inches in New York. But really focusing on the interior northeast. This is where the heaviest snow will fall. I tell you what, you guys are making up for lost ground. I know areas like Buffalo is above their snow for the year, and I think it's just because those two epic snowfall lake effect snow events that happen in November and December around Christmas time. And really, that's the only reason you guys are well above average. But everywhere else, you're still catching up. But you are gradually catching up here in the interior northeast. Maine, certain areas of Maine are above average. And we talked about why. When these storm systems track north, even though it's above average, it's still cold enough for snow up here. But this is going to be some snowy times between now and Wednesday morning for the Northeast. But we zoom in and get a little bit closer for you folks. And let's talk about the ice really quick. Could be a glaze ice with this. There could, but not much. Northern PA, southern and southwest sections of New York State, a few hundredths of an inch of ice is possible with this. But we zoom into like New York City and surrounding regions. They're going for 1.5 inches of snow for New York City. A couple inches of snow in the northern sections of Long Island. Southern sections, not as much. But listen, do not look at this as gospel. This is their call as of right now. You don't have to go very far north of New York City to start to get into some plowable snow. Even though I know 4, 5, 6 inches of snow isn't a ton, but this will be your biggest snow event of the winter so far. For many of these areas, but I expect the snow totals to increase in New York City. I think you could get 2 to 3 inches of snow in New York City, maybe a little more. But you don't have to go far north or northwest of the city into northern New Jersey to start to see maybe pushing 1/2 foot snowfall totals. You look in Boston. This is their latest one that was issued about 4:32 a.m. this morning. Connecticut, this will be a pretty big event for you guys. Hartford going for 4 to 6 inches of snow. The western areas of Connecticut and Mass are definitely going for a little bit more, especially in these higher elevations where it's just colder. But 6 to 8 inch snowfall event. But central, 4 to 6 inches of snow. Boston, this is they're saying the area of highest uncertainty with snowfall amounts. So they're going for 3 to 4 inches in Boston. A couple days ago, this was looking like a bigger event, but this is still going to be a pretty nice event for you winter weather fans. I know for some people up here it's viewed as a nuisance, and I don't blame you because you deal with it a lot more than we do down here in the South. But this is certainly going to be just a nice moderate snowfall. And like I said, no damaging winds or coastal flooding are expected with it. So it's not going to be a wind-driven snow. It could be just a pretty snow that's going to fall in these areas. So this could increase. I wanted to zoom in on these areas. So snow coming. Next and last thing we'll talk about, and this is kind of a two-piece thing, we're going to talk about the winter weather side of this and then the severe weather side of this, is the storm behind this. As this storm pulls away right here, another one trails it. And I say another one, but there's multiple pieces of energy that flies around. But here it comes. I want to note, the GFS is different than the Euro with this second system late week, Thursday into Friday. GFS plows this incredibly strong low pressure, 975 millibar low pressure riding through the Quad States regions sometime overnight, Thursday into Friday morning. This would bring a roaring low-level jet through Mississippi, Louisiana, areas of Tennessee, Alabama. A huge area of moist air will ride north of this in response. Cape will build, and the GFS has a significant severe weather event, and I'm going to talk about what the Storm Prediction Center is showing in a second. But let's talk about the winter weather side of this first. Low pressure brings a corridor, very heavy snow, winter storm, criteria winter weather from Missouri through the northern sections of the Ohio Valley. This would slam areas like Cleveland, get very close to Chicago, Detroit. This would hit areas of the interior Northeast very hard, with an ice storm for certain areas, winter storm, snowstorm for areas further north. And then look at this little comet head behind it. This could be a powerful storm system. Even when you look at the GFS for Friday afternoon, it has that look with that comet head up here and then that tail down here. This could be a significant snowstorm, winter storm, and severe weather event. And this continues, and it hits the interior Northeast very hard for the beginning part, around next Friday into early part of next week, and then it heads on off as we get into our next Sunday. Euro, totally different. The Euro gets this, and it's a weaker system further south, but brings snow further south. This would bring snow into Oklahoma, through northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, southern sections of the Ohio Valley instead of northern sections of the Great Lakes. This would bring a snow event sometime Thursday into Friday for areas, like I said, northern Mid-South, southern Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic. If the GFS, I'm sorry, not the GFS, if the European is correct, which there's a huge battle right now, we're still kind of far out. If the European is correct, which you folks in the Mid-Atlantic are begging for this to be correct for a winter weather fan, this would bring a substantial winter storm for Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia. Icing issues for certain areas in the Maryland. We're not going to talk specifics, but this would bring your best snow event for the year on March 3rd for areas like Pittsburgh. And then there will be a sharp cutoff somewhere up in here in southern New England between appreciable snowfall accumulations and hardly nothing. But there's a huge difference. Like, this is the GFS for Friday evening. This is the European for Friday evening. Okay, so big difference. This would have rain for everybody in the Mid-Atlantic. The European would have snow for most people in the Mid-Atlantic. So big difference here. GFS, snowfall totals, this is with the first event. Here comes the second event. Corridor of foot-plus snowfall totals stretching from Missouri all the way through central Illinois, Indiana, northern Ohio, southern sections of Michigan, and this will just become a big winter storm probably for Buffalo in the interior Northeast. You look at the European, this is the first event. Here comes the European. Bang, look at that. Look at that corridor, very heavy snow blasting just north of Washington, D.C. This would be a big event for areas further south, southern PA, southern Ohio, northern Kentucky, southern Indiana. So there's a big difference here. It really is. So it's a lot to figure out with the winter weather side of this. But, and this is going to make people further south upset, I get the feeling that the National Weather Service is going more so towards the GFS, just due to how this ridge has acted this year, and it's made things trend northwest. It's wild. The system in the Northeast coming up here in the next 48 hours, it has actually trended south. It's one of the first systems this year that has really trended south, but pretty wild to think about. I'm going to get a sip of coffee here. Man, my coffee's getting cold. All right. So this is new. We woke up to this morning. We kind of knew it was coming. I didn't think an enhanced risk was coming, but for Thursday, you see this orange area? That is a 30% risk to see damage. 30% risk to see severe weather within 25 miles on any given point. That is an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5 at day 5. This is for this coming Thursday. Okay, so they are highly confident that there's going to be severe weather here. But remember, the GFS really reflects this. The European has a severe weather threat, but if the European was to happen, I would imagine this would get shunted south, okay, because the low pressure is further south. It knocks all the dynamics further south. But not only this, but for day 6, for our Friday, there is a 15% risk of severe weather occurring within 25 miles in any given location. So this is just due to the fact that they're not as confident that this is going to be a bigger event than Thursday, but this could change. I've seen it change because the low pressure moves south. But listen, day 5, and I want you to read down here in the Storm Prediction Center, and I'm going to have to find it here on the fly here, is, I hope this doesn't take long, and it might. But they do mention in the Storm Prediction Center that this could be the possible severe weather outbreak down here. So let's try to read it really quick. Yep, here we go. Right here. A widespread outbreak of severe weather will be possible beginning Thursday afternoon and continuing into the overnight period. So they're already using the word outbreak, 4 or 5 days out. So it should tell you that, once again, the same area is going to be under the gun. Okay, so we'll briefly talk about the dynamics going into this. And like I said, until we get about the next 3 or 4 days, I would say 2 or 3 days, we're not going to really know the evolution of this storm. This is going to change a lot. But what we do know is getting into Thursday afternoon, massive, deep moist sector here. Dew points well deep into the 60s, even widespread 70s. I expect this to trend, if the GFS is correct, even the Euro. I would expect there's going to be some kind of corridor of widespread low 70 dew points down here. Very, very moist air, and it's going to be another warm week in the southeast. So, yeah, and then it gets to move on, but very, very moist air. You look also at this. This is the low-level jet. This will move into the area. Look at this. Low pressure moves just north. Low-level jet pushing 60, 70, 75, maybe 80 knots in this yellow area right here. Intense wind field that's going to favor the rotating thunderstorms and damaging winds right into here. So if the GFS is correct, we do have something substantial to worry about in areas of the south, and even in getting into Friday into the southeast, because this would be an extremely strong system. And this would promote an incredible storm system for the eastern U.S., the entire eastern U.S. But there's a lot of dynamic kinematics with this, okay? And then you look at your supercell parameter right here. It maximizes big time here in eastern Texas and spreads into Louisiana, and then starts to get into the deep south and starts to spike again in the southeast as we're getting into Friday. But things are going to tweak back and forth, guys. I actually thought this was going to be a 40-minute plus video, but we made good timing. I hope this video helps. I really do. I spent a lot of time preparing this morning. Woke up really early, but that's all I got. I doubt we'll get as detailed again tonight, but I will have a video tonight, and we'll try to do it again. But this is an incredible time frame coming up, a dangerous time frame coming up. But certain areas that, declared winter being over, you might be in a surprise also. So, yeah, we'll figure it out, guys. God bless all y'all. Have a great Sunday, and I'll be with y'all a little bit later today.